Okay, I think I'm live. Hello, everybody. It's Heiden, and I'm just getting my stream started up here. And then we'll go into some updates. It's been a little while since I've done one of these. Whenever I have the time, I like to get on here and, catch up with everybody and show you guys what's going on behind the scenes. Renew, nice to see you as always. You are one of my most faithful followers. You never miss one, and I really appreciate you being here. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of the behind the scenes stuff going on with the campaign. We're going to go over some industry, production, reinforcements, aircraft, all that stuff. And then we'll just kind of go over each area where there's activity, and I'll talk about what my plans are, what the basic strategy is, and just give an update about that. So the first thing we'll do is I think we'll start with talking about industry and production stuff, because I don't really go into it too much during most of my videos. Let me see if I can get that up on the screen here. All right, so now we got Tracker up. This is one of my favorite screens on Tracker. This is the Industry Dataset Oil and Resources tab. This is probably one of the most important tabs for your Japanese player you can have, because it tells you the health of your industry and your resources. So the thing I look at a lot is right here under oil, days remaining, 330. And then resources. Right now we have 50 days of resources with our current rate of usage, and we are barely keeping pace. So if we take a look at the resource history, actually I don't think it's going to come up. Never mind. Anyway, bottom line is we're barely keeping up. We're shipping in a lot of stuff, but I'm having some interruptions. Let me show you what those are. So a lot of the resources that I'm trying to get come out of Fusan, but we're having a lot of issues getting the resources to Fusan because we have a lot of enemy partisan activity on our rail lines. So he's blocking us here, blocking us here, blocking us here. And a lot of the spare resources that come out of China have to flow through these rail lines all the way down into Fusan, and they're just not. So he's done a good job with his partisan guys blocking my rail lines and really constricting my resource flow right now. So I'm having to deal with that. But looking back at Tracker, we'll bring it back up here. That's why our resources are kind of low. I have more ships at Fusan than I have resources to put on them right now. Okay, I also like to look at the supply and fuel tab. So for Japan, this region, we have we're doing okay on fuel. We have about 180 days of fuel left. What we're not doing so great on is supply. We're burning about a net. We're experiencing a net loss of about 3,000 supply a day in mainland Japan. But a lot of that has to do with our industry upgrades, which some of them are going to be done soon. That will help us recoup some supply. I'll show you that in just a minute here. So that's what we got going on with industry on Tracker. Let's take a look at our industry in the game and what's building up right now. So if I go over to the industry section here, industry management, a couple of stuff that we're expanding are aircraft engines. So we're still quite a ways behind on our HA-32 production. I'm trying to get that going faster. And it's just coming up real slow. Looking at HA-33s, those are doing fine. We just finished up an HA-34 factory. Another one will become done tomorrow. So that's 1,000 supply a day that will no longer be burnt. And in Gifu, 3 more days on these if we get the supply in here to do it. HA-34 production, we're almost at 80 units a month. That might be good for a while. I might want to up this to about 100 units a month to anticipate the Ki-44 Tojo and the Helen when we get it. HA-35 production, we're not anywhere close to where we need to be on that. We're barely keeping pace with our production needs. We're going to have to expand these to 500 engines a month, I think. So we'll see how that goes. And then a bunch of HA-45 R&D will be done. And again, once these are done, that means that those are days. That's 1,000 supply a day that will no longer be expended in mainland Japan. So we'll resolve some of our supply issues once these are done expanding. For aircraft, here's our lineup. we're done building up the zero line. We have 130 a month being produced, which is quite a bit because we're using a lot of them. I'm expanding my Kate production because we've been losing a lot of Kates. It's going out of style. Oh, hey, look who it is. It's my favorite moderator from my Discord. Japan does suck sometimes, especially when it comes to supply. But the German Navy, the Kriegsmarine, as much as I'm a wereaboo, I wouldn't say it's necessarily better. In fact, it's probably worse in a lot of ways. All right, working on Jake production here. We're almost up to 85 aircraft a month. That's more than enough. Betty's are producing 30 a month. Yeah, so we're about done expanding our aircraft production lines. And again, once these are all done expanding, that's going to be no more supply being expended for this, and we can start banking that supply. It's 1,000 supply a day to build these factories up. So every day that we're not burning 1,000 supply, that's money in the bank for us. So we're getting kind of close on that. That's good. Okay, research and development on air. Let's take a look at what we have that's closest. It's going to be the Helen, but that comes in April 42 anyway. And as soon as it does, we're going to immediately flop it over to the Helen 2A, I believe. Let me see. KI 49, the 2A, or the, what is it? Yeah, the 2A is what we want because that's got the armor on it. And this is coming pretty slowly on a lot of these things. All right, that's basically it for production. I'm currently not expanding anything else until I resolve my supply issues. I wanted to build up more naval shipyards. I've stopped it at 45 to go. Repair shipyards, stopped it. Vehicle production, I've stopped as well because I just don't have the supply excesses that I need right now to do it. So we're just gonna wait until all of my engine R&D stuff is done, and that will give us the surplus we need to start expanding the other industries. Okay, what else can we talk about here? Let's go ahead and go over reinforcements now so we don't have to look at tracker anymore. We'll start with the ship production, which again, I prefer to use tracker for that. It's back up on screen. And this is the best way to look at ship production right here. All right. So I like to sort it by date of arrival. And I also get rid of all of these halted ships because I don't need to look at those. So these are what we got coming up. The next ship we're going to get here on the 16th of January is a sub chaser, a couple sub chasers. Let's see here. The cruiser seaplane tender Nishin will be available at the end of the month of January. A couple more sub chasers coming in early Feb. Let's see what else. What else good in February here? Not a whole lot. A submarine. Looks like 2 submarines. And these are the B1, B2 class. And these ones carry float planes. So these are really good subs to have. With good range, a lot of torpedoes, and a float plane. So those are going to be appreciated a lot. And then on the 3rd of... On the 3rd of February, we're or March rather, the Unio, which is an escort carrier. So I'm not holding my breath on that. Not super great. All right, so that's what we got coming up between now and March in ship production. In fact, if we can even clean this up a little bit more and get rid of the blueprint stuff, because that's not really that important. So there you go. Not a lot of good stuff's coming other than a couple subs and another escort carrier by early March. And the Nishin. This is actually a really good ship. Excellent to go with Keto Butai or Mini Keto Butai or anything, because it carries 20 Jake float planes. That's a lot. You can basically cover all of your naval search needs with this. Okay, I think we're done with tracker for now. Let's take a look at our air replacements, which should be here. Aircraft group reinforcement schedule. All this stuff here is just aircraft being railed in. Don't mind that. So in 14 days, we get another transport squadron. In 20 days, we get a small Kate unit. 23 days, a Val unit. In 25 25 days, another beta unit. That's about it. There's nothing particularly great coming in here in the next 45 days. Just nothing good at all, actually. Okay, ground reinforcements. So in 2 days, we get another dispatchable aviation unit, another piece of a naval guard in 3, a good naval guard unit in 4, which I already have a use for that, an independent S&LF company, which are basically good for garrison in the Dutch East Indies, a special base force in 7 days, which I have a use for that as well, another parachute infantry regiment in 9 days, and just a bunch of miscellaneous stuff all the way up until about the 18 days. We're going to get this infantry brigade, which is actually an excellent garrison unit, and that spawns on the China side of the border, so we don't need to worry about Kwangtung garrison. This can be used for freeing up divisions down to Shanghai and things like that. And another one of those brigades at 21 days at Shanghai. So these are good garrison units here. If we scroll down the list to the next up to 30 days, we just see we get a couple more Naval Guard and S&LF units and another garrison unit. So we'll be looking pretty good, all said and done, with garrison units in China once I get these next 3 brigades. Don't mind getting those. You can never have enough garrison units. That frees up combat units for frontline work. All right, so we've basically talked about the industry, production, reinforcements for ships, aircraft, and the ground for the next 30 days. So let's briefly go over some strategy stuff and situation. So first of all, if I draw your attention to this area of China here, I'm having a heck of a time dealing with his partisan units. He keeps parking them on my rail lines here, and it's constricting the flow of resources back into Kwangtung and down into Korea at Fusan. So that's why we're having some resource issues on the Korean Peninsula right now. But this is a short-term problem. I just need to free up the troops to come down here and deal with it. So I'm doing that right now, but it takes time. So I will give Macho some credit for that. He's done a good job blocking my rail lines with these crappy little units, and he's just suiciding them anyway. He's a suicidal player. He loves to kill stuff, so, you know, whatever. This is his thing. That's what he likes to do. But it's causing me issues. Okay, so we're pushing hard for Xi'an right now. He's pulled out a lot of his units from this hex, which is ×3 terrain, causing us some issues there. But I think we're definitely going for an attack this upcoming turn. Shock attacking with his tanks, and deliberate attack with the 4 large infantry divisions. And we should be able to overpower whatever's left in this hex and start walking straight into Xi'an. At the same time, I have 1600 AV advancing from the east of Xi'an, so we're kind of doing a pincer movement, or hitting it from 2 different lines of attack. I anticipate having Xi'an secured in the next 7 days at the rate that we're going. Okay, we did get stopped on the road up Ankang, but it's okay, because I've got reinforcements to the tune of another 1,200 coming up the road immediately behind. And behind that, I've got 1,400, 1,800, almost 3,000 AV or more. No, make it 4,000 AV that I'm splitting between these 2 roads, because these are 2 main lines of advance. Okay, so we're going to continue up towards Ankang, which is where the AVG guys flew out of last turn if you watched my last video. And we're going to continue up to Xi'an. So, I do want to show you something else that I've noticed down here in China. And this is kind of a recent development. So, about a week ago, he and I decided to throw out our house rules, and one of those is the political points payments. So, that allowed me to move over a substantial amount of my Kwangtung units into China without having to pay political points. So, just to give you an idea of how many I've moved, the Manchukuo garrison requirement is 8,000, and I am flirting dangerously close to it. So I did a lot of math, I had a calculator out, and I figured out what units I needed to move and what I had to leave behind. And I basically took it down to the absolute bare minimum to keep Manchukuo garrisoned, right? So I have everything else in China, and Macho knows this. So what I've been noticing here is a general withdrawal of all of his forces. So Changsha is basically down to minimum garrison. He's moving troops up this way and more along the road this way towards Kuaiyang. He's got almost nothing left in Changte. He's abandoned Nanning and Luqiao and Kuailin. Nope, he did not abandon Kuailin, but he's given up Luqiao and Nanning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take advantage of this, and I'm moving to secure these places right now. I want these bases very badly. So we're moving to take these bases while we can gobble them up, right? And I'm also moving this direction, up this direction, and then again from here. And I am starting to build up forces to push down into Changte and do a general encirclement of Changsha. Because if he's going to give it up to us, I'll take it all. I know why he's doing it, because he thinks that some crazy floodgate has opened up in Kwangtung, and I'm moving 5 million AV into China. That's not the case. I can't do that, right? I have to maintain that garrison, so I can't move that much stuff. But he's overreacting, and he's pulling back into positions further closer to Chongqing. And I'm going to take advantage of that and push forward and take these bases on the cheap. And we'll deal with those big death stacks later on. Nothing I can do about it now. But this is an opportunity for me to snatch up some key bases that would otherwise be very difficult to take. So let me go to the chat here. Alfonso, nice to see you. I don't think I recognize your name, but I'm happy to see you here. Is the Manchukuo garrison something to keep the Russians out? Absolutely. So right now the Soviets are dormant, and they're going to remain so until about August of 1945, unless we invade their territory by intentionally marching into it, which I'm not going to do, or we drop this Manchukuo garrison below 8,000. So dipping below 8,000 does not automatically activate the Soviets the next turn, but it increases the likelihood that they will. The lower you dip into here, the higher the chance they could automatically turn on. And I do not want to be fighting the Soviets in 1942, right? That's going to be a big problem in 1945. So I'm going to maintain this minimum amount of garrison here, and that basically ensures that the Soviets do not turn on and come after us. All right. Again, if you dip a little bit below it, you have time. You can probably quickly move a unit back in there and restore it before the Soviets activate. But you don't want to dip into this too long, and the lower you go, the higher the chances that they come after you. So, yeah, this garrison, yeah, so, Alfonso, it is kind of cool, and it forces the Japanese player to not move a lot of troops in here, and it's all politically motivated, right? This whole area was subjugated to Japan, and they're not entirely friendly towards Japan, right? There's a lot of Chinese and ethnic Mongolians all up in here, and they don't really like the Japanese being here, so it takes a kind of a large amount of troops to suppress that and keep the people loyal. Right. And it also keeps you from taking millions of troops and dumping them into China and just blasting through here. If I could take all 8,000 AV in Manchukuo and send it into China, we'd be done by March. But, I can't do that. Reno, I see why he's doing it, right? He's figuring if I'm going to be slamming him with a lot of troops, which I'm really not, he just thinks I am, he wants to fall back into the more defensive terrain higher up into China. And that's fine, and that will make it more difficult for me later on. But it also makes me easier to take key bases now that I otherwise would not be able to take if he had all these troops sitting in these bases. I wouldn't even try it. But I see the weakness here. This space is empty. This space is empty. I'm going to snatch him up while I can. And once I take him, he's not getting them back. So I personally think he's overreacting. But I will capitalize on this. And this is something that I haven't talked about in my videos, but I'm letting you guys know now. So that's what we got going on in China. Let's take a look at Burma. Burma's more or less on track. We just took Pegu last turn. I've got units heading for Rangoon and some heading up the road. What I do need to be very careful about is not taking Magway until I'm in a position to properly defend it, and I'm not yet. So we're probably going to stop kind of near Prome and Tungu until I come up with a plan to properly defend Magway from any sort of bomber intervention from Calcutta. Because you can bet that his B-17s are going to be flying the day I take this place, okay? So I don't want to subject it to bombing if I don't need to. So we're going to probably get to Prome and stop and evaluate what we're going to do next. So I would say within 2 weeks, we'll have all these bases down here captured. And once we take Rangoon, that shuts off the Burma Road and kills 500 supply a day going into China. So that's another reason why I want to take it quickly. But there's not much else to say about Burma. It's going okay. Let's take a look at the Philippines. And if you guys are on my Discord, you'll know we've been having long conversations about what to do about Bataan. So I'm kind of conflicted here. And a lot of the more senior, more experienced players are not really understanding why. I have it in my head that I want to take this place out right away. Okay. But it's going to take a lot of troops to do that. He's got about 5... Here, let me show you what he's got. Let me see here. Here's Combat Reporter, if you can see it on your screen. Let's take a look at what he actually has in there. He's got 496 AV. All right, and that's these units right here. Now, admittedly, a lot of these are the Philippine Army units, and they're not particularly good. But still, they're sitting on ×2 terrain with probably a couple forts behind them. And they're going to be hard to take. It's going to take a lot of troops. And do I really want to use those troops here or somewhere else? Now, if we take a look at the map, I have the entire Philippine contingent bottled up in Bataan already by 5 January. A lot of the more OG players in my Discord are saying, why are you caring so much about this? Leave them there. Let them rot. They're not going anywhere. They cannot get away. They're not strong enough to push me out. So why are you expending so much effort to take this out? And you know what? I don't really have a good answer for you. I just want it dead because I don't like looking at it. And that's honestly not a good reason to do this. Okay, because I don't like it and I don't want to look at it anymore. It's a stupid reason for me to be dumping more troops, more material, more artillery into this. So I need to really think long and hard about what I want to do here and how important this is to me. Because I don't know. I think I might be making too big of a deal out of this than I should. So I will think this over, but more than likely, I'm probably going to pull out of here. At least the 2nd Division components, right? Anything that belongs to 2nd Division, I'm probably going to pull it out. And just leave a couple blocking units here just to keep them bottled up. Because I get the ×2 terrain bonus just like he does, right? If he attacks me. And he's not going to attack me because his troops suck. So I'm just going to sit here with the bare amount of troops I need to keep him busy and probably move the rest on to other things. I think that's what I'm going to do. But I've swung back and forth on this like 4 times and I've changed my mind 4 times. So I don't really know what I want to do. I'll keep thinking about it. Sultan, I see you in the chat. Hello. Nice to see you, man. Thanks for coming in and joining us today. All right. Other than that, Luzon's done. And I'm working my way down the Central Islands here. We just landed at Masbate, or Masbate, I don't know how to say that. And Katbalogan on Samar. So I'm just going to slowly pick off the bases that I know to be under or undefended. And we'll deal with the other ones like Iloilo, and Cebu, Bacolod. All these places have troops on them. And I don't really want to go into an opposed landing here right now, so I probably won't. Now, taking a look at Mindanao, we have a lot of his troops bottled up here, right? About 10,000 troops. I would estimate 300 to 400 AV is stuck here in Mindanao. What I'm probably going to do is take that 2nd Division along with some reinforcements and come down here and finish this thing off and be done with it. Or not. Actually, better yet, how about if I don't? How about if I just leave them here as well and take that 2nd Division and move it into Borneo or Java or somewhere more important? Because just like Bataan, Mindanao is Malay Belay on Mindanao is not critical to me at all. The base produces no resources. These troops have no supply path. They will rot away and die. So there's no real need to actually take this base. They're just going to attrit themselves to death. So I just need to leave enough blocking forces and garrison around here to secure that. And I'll leave these guys here and not waste the time. There's no point. Okay, let's go over to the most action-packed area right now. Malaya, Sumatra, and Java. So it's been a wild week or two here. We captured Singapore on the 30th of December, which is a record for me. I've never in a bazillion years come close to that. I've already got the base building up quite a bit, so fortifications coming up. Airfield's well on the way to size 8, and I'm going to go all the way to size 9, and that'll be great. My problem here is that I allowed, due to my inaction and my lack of oversight, I allowed Macho to build up Palembang into this crazy fortress here. He's got 80,000 troops here. Admittedly, a lot of them aren't great, but when you stack them on ×3 terrain behind forts, on the easily the most important base for the Japanese on the map, the stakes are incredibly high. Engineers, when they retreat or surrender, have a high chance of blowing up the base on their way out. And Palembang is my #1 oil-producing base on the entire map. And if he blows this place up to Kingdom Come because I let him get all these troops in here, we're in big, big trouble. So this is one of the worst-case scenarios you can face as a Japanese player, the Fortress Palembang. So be that as it may, I'm dealing with it now and I have to go after it. So that has influenced a lot of my decisions over the last few turns. We've gone very heavy into action at Oosthaven and Merak and Batavia because he's been moving troops through here and dumping stuff off and pulling stuff out of Oosthaven. So I sent a bunch of cruisers and destroyers down here and sunk about 30 to 40 ships down here in 3 days. However, I lost 4 destroyers, and these were frontline destroyers in the process. So if we take a look at this, Japanese ship losses, I've lost 4 very good destroyers. 3 of these were of the Asashio class, and one of them was a Kagero. I think it was a Maikaze. These are my frontline, very best destroyers that I have on the map right now, and I've lost 4 of them in, I don't know, 3 days. But I felt the need to come down here and take these bases and stop the flow of troops and ships and supplies in and out of this area. So we more or less blockaded this entire Merak Strait, and we've also shut down the Palembang airbase. So nothing else is going to get into Palembang. I can guarantee you that. Or if he is moving them in, he's moving them in by seaplane, which is inefficient. But I still need to deal with Palembang. So my plan is to use a lot of divisions and just take it out. So we currently have, if we look at by AV, we've got 3 fully intact divisions, right? I've got the 21st and the 16th now in the Hex that are pretty depleted from the Luzon campaign, but they're quickly recovering because we have a lot of support and supply. So I have them in rest mode, broken up into thirds, and these guys should be at, this one's basically at, here, look at 21st Division, right? We're already back to 400 AV, and it's coming together really nicely. So this one should be more or less back into combat strength within a week or less. Okay. The 16th Division is not so well off. It's got about 348, but again, it's healing up nicely. In this Hex with a lot of support, which there's going to be more coming. It's recovering quickly. So I'm going to need every division I got to go into Palembang. I've got more coming down the peninsula. I've got more landing way up the road, nowhere near. And then I'll have all of my divisions, save for the 2nd Division and the 48th, in Singapore. Oh, and the Imperial Guards and the 55th are up here dealing with Burma, which is a high important area to me. I'll have about 7 to 8 divisions ready in Singapore to go out to Palembang. I have... so, Reno, you asked if I'm going directly in. I have not decided yet. That would be the quickest way, but that would be the costliest way. So I have about a week-ish to really make a decision on what I want to do here. What I'm doing in the meantime to prepare for this is I'm taking all of my AKs that aren't worth much here in Singapore, and I'm converting them into AKTs, which are the troop conversions, right? And from there, that will allow me to use cheaper ships to move a lot of troops into Palembang at reduced cost. So if any of these ships get blown up or taken out by mines or sunk by aircraft or just hit by the coastal guns as we go in, if we decide to go frontal, I'm only losing less points to ships as opposed to using these really expensive like my 18 speed AKs, which are very useful, right? Or my transport ships, right? These APs. I would rather use those for longer range missions that need faster ships to go longer distances. And I can use the slower ships to go from Palembang and Singapore, because it's literally 7 hexes from Singapore to Palembang. So in 2 turns, my little 12-speed crappy AKs that are converted into troop ships can land in Palembang if I so desire. And there you go. If you really want to know what I'm going to do, go over to my Discord channel. We talk about it more there, because I really haven't decided yet, but I've got time. I'm still trying to recover my divisions and get everything concentrated in Singapore, repair my ships, get my cruisers rearmed for this next thing. So on Java, one thing we noticed here is that this place looks like a ghost town now, right? 15,000 troops in Batavia, 6,000 in Bandung, 10,000 in Surabaya, and that's basically it. So Surabaya is more or less practically undefended. Bandung, Fortress Bandung is not going to happen. And Batavia just has a minimal garrison. The rest of it's all in Palembang. So yeah, it's bad that it's in Palembang, but once I do take Palembang, that basically eliminates all the allied troops in the Dutch East Indies for all intent and purposes. I just got to take it. But Java's going to be a cakewalk for me now, because it's basically been gutted for the defense of Palembang. So there we go. I guess that's a plus side. So if we look over here in this part of the Dutch East Indies, we're doing a good job here. We've captured all the most important bases right now, right? We have Timor, Ambon, Kendari, Makassar, and I see a pathway for invasion, and I think I would like to go straight into Java from Makassar area, right? We can land here and get into Surabaya quickly and take it out. I have plenty of troops here to make a good landing. So I have about 500 AV of troops just here, and that's more than enough for us landing on this part of Java and taking Surabaya. So expect an invasion of Java from this end within the month. We do have a little bit of a foothold here in Iraq. I don't know how long we're going to be able to keep it, because I'm sure he's going to look to reinforce this or to counterattack. So I have to decide how badly I want to defend my toehold on Iraq, or if I just want to wait. At least we have it in the meantime, right? All right, let's get down to the Solomons area, where there's not a whole lot going on here. He's just suiciding troops here at Port Moresby. We're working on taking WoW. I got troops on the way there, and that should be the last base, flag base, other than these 2 up here that he has on New Guinea. And then we just need to start policing up these dot bases. In the South Pacific, I'm wrapping up capturing all these dot bases here. We grabbed all the bases more or less on New Caledonia, with the exception of Belep Islands, which we're going to take next turn. Noumea is building up nicely. I'm focusing primarily on the forts. I don't want to build the base too much, because all I'm doing is building him a base for later. But Noumea is ready to go, and we have naval search out of there. Now, take a look at this disaster over here by the Quito Butai. We had cap-trapped over Sydney last turn and lost a lot of aircraft, so I'm currently in the process of leaving, because if you see here, there's 18 dots for submarines right now. So one thing I probably over-exaggerated about when I mentioned this during the last turn video, there's probably not actually 18 real submarines here. A lot of these can be misidentified or like bad reports from my ASW aircraft. However, I can't be certain, so I have to assume that there's 18 submarines chasing me. Macho in a private DM on Discord assured me that there's only about 5 chasing me. I don't know if he's telling the truth or not. We only saw 5 down here before. Now all of a sudden we see 18. It probably did not materialize overnight, so there's probably only like 5 or 6, but that's still too many for my liking. So even if there's not 18, there's at least 5 or 6 chasing me right now, and I want the heck out of here. So we're gonna retreat and come back another day when I have another plan. But right now, this Sydney cap trap was not pretty, and I don't really want to go through that again. So I'm probably done strat bombing Australia for the time being. I got 1,300 points out of it. I'm a little bit short of my goal, but I'm not willing to lose any more Quito Butai pilots over this. It's just not worth it. Not until I can put more fighters on my aircraft carriers and escort this better. Okay. And then over here in the Central Pacific, we're just policing up dot bases, and that's more or less it. Not a lot of activity over near Australia. Not no, Australia, Hawaii. A couple ships. I do have submarines out here operating just to see if we can catch a random ship coming in. We did sink an ACM last turn with gunfire, but I haven't seen anything else super big coming in here since then. What are my plans for South Pacific? I am kind of looking at Fiji, but I don't know yet. I don't know if it's worth it. I have to kind of think if I want to go in. I guess it is. It'd be a nice little point swing. But trying to hold Fiji against a determined allied counterattack is very hard. In fact, it's hard to hold Espiritu Santo and New Caledonia. Fiji is really sticking it out there. So if I go in there, it's going to be to grab some points and to get out. I don't think I would build this base up because he would just bypass it, go around it. And then I just have a bunch of maroon troops here. So probably not going to stay in Fiji even if I take it. Renu, you asked Australia or India. I can't say right now because I have a bigger problem on my hands. Normally, I would be going for my next objective right now because we already have Singapore. We could start moving on to the next thing. But this whole Palembang situation is so bad that I can't even think about Australia or India or anything else. Everything I've got right now has to go into taking this base out. And then we have to figure out how much damage we're going to incur from it. If the oil in Palembang is wrecked, we may not be able to go anywhere else because a lot of my oil turns into supply and fuel, which we need to keep going. And if that's all wrecked at Palembang, I'm not going to have the supply and the fuel that I need to go into India or to go into Australia. So I can't even talk about it right now. I got to deal with this first. And once I know what we've got left and once I know, how this turns out, we can start talking about the next thing. But all effort has to go into Palembang and blockading it to keep more stuff from getting in and bombing it every day to keep the forts from building up. That's all I have to worry about right now. Sultan, we talked about it already, but I'll briefly go back and talk about it. We're working our way up the Anking Road and the Sion Road. I think in the next 7 to 10 days, I'll have Sion secured because he's retreating. Anking will take a little more time because he's kind of got down here and he's blocking me. Okay. And I mentioned this already, but because of the rule change that we just went through last week, I see him withdrawing rapidly from all of these bases in southern China, and he's retreating up into more defensive positions closer to Chongqing, which has opened up a lot of opportunities for me to grab bases like Changte, Changsha, Henyang, Kuilin, Luqiao, and Nanning. So I'm actually moving on those right now because I see him stopping, or I see him retreating and giving up a lot of these bases to me. So I'm going to take advantage of that and take them while I can. But North China is always first because Lansha oil is critical to the Chinese supply situation. If we can knock that out quickly, then that really puts them in a bind in China for supply generation. So Northern China always is priority one for me, but Southern China, a window of opportunity has opened up for us to take advantage of, and I'm going to move on it while I can. All right, guys, I basically said everything that was on my agenda today. Are there any more questions before I shut this down? So we talked about, again, in closing, we talked about industry, production, supply situation, reinforcements, ship, aircraft on the land, situations everywhere, and kind of what I'm looking to do right now. I think I covered it all. Can you share your supply research stockpile in Tokyo? Yes, Lodric, I already did, but I'll show you again. So let's go look at tracker here. Ready for magic? 3, 2, 1, magic. Oh, I love this. My OBS game is on fleek right now. All right, let's go over to the industry section, and we're going to look at oil and resources. So this line here, 330 days of oil left, 50 days of resources because we're having resource constraints getting into Fusan due to his partisan activity in China. I'm working on resolving that. And then the resource situation will improve after that. And then the supply is not looking so great. We're down to 403,000 supply in mainland China. However, next turn, a significant number of my engine factories and aircraft factories will be done expanding. So we're going to start getting a surplus of supply again, in which case I can start looking at heavy industry and other stuff. But I need those things to hurry up and repair because we're burning about 3,000 supply a day in net loss on Japan because of all the industry that's expanding right now. And most of that's coming to a close here pretty soon. Hopefully that answers your question. Alfonso, the only thing we know about here, let's go back. The only thing we know about U.S. carriers is that he somehow got them close enough to fly his aircraft into Sydney. So if we take a look at Combat Reporter, wrong one. Combat Reporter, you'll see here a few days ago, I think it was the 2nd, we got cap trapped at Sydney. Sydney, there. And we encountered... No, I guess it was the 3rd. Yeah, it was the 3rd, okay. Air, Sydney. We encountered a flight of F4, F3 Wildcats. Okay, these came off of his carriers. I'm certain of it. He had to get close enough to fly these off and hopscotch them to other bases. So that means that at some point, his carriers were probably down in this area somewhere, and he flew the aircraft off into maybe Pago, Suva, potentially hopscotch them over into Australia somewhere. So I do believe his carriers made it down to South Pacific in the general vicinity. We just don't know where. And by the way, this is an allied. It's the new allied meta, guys, because all of us new Japanese players all strap bomb Australia. Now what the allied players are doing is flying their American carrier fighter squadrons into Australia to use to fight Kido Butai from land, because they know their carriers are no good. The air wings are no good and they can't go toe-to-toe. The fighters are okay-ish, right? Especially using a defensive situation. So the allied players these days are taking their carrier fighters, getting them into Australia, and then pulling the carriers back somewhere else and letting them train and do whatever they want to do. Because it's less risky to operate these aircraft over Sydney, right? The pilots are going to get saved, more or less. If there's damaged aircraft, they get to land in the same hex. So that's the new allied meta, in my opinion. A lot of these new allied players are flying their carrier aircraft into these places and doing this. I've seen it twice now in a month. So that's the thing now. Be aware. If you're a Japanese player, the allies are going to start dumping their Wildcats into Australia quick. So you can't strap bomb like I was doing. So that's what I know about carriers. Okay, I think that's it. If anybody else has any more questions, let me know. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and shut this down and call it a day. All right, let me make sure there's nothing else that I missed. Well, I think that's it. Tell you what. If anybody else has any more questions, just post a comment on the video once it gets posted, or come over to Discord, and we'll talk about it there. Sultan, tell you what, I got that on my Discord. Come over to my channel, and I'll show you what I'm researching, because I don't want to bring it up now. I think we're done for today, so I'm gonna call it. I want to thank all of you guys for being here. It was a great turnout today. I really appreciate it. I'll be doing these maybe once or twice a month just to get everybody up to speed on what's been happening. Production industry, that kind of thing, because I don't want to talk about that on every video or else they get excessively long. So I'll save it for this. Get you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.